about you immediately assume that I have never done my research?
You're right. I apologize. I did exactly what I would tell my children not to do. I made a flippant video in the evening, and I did make assumptions based on your assumptions that most parents don't have the capability to homeschool. It triggered me. It was night, made a flippant response as a homeschool mom and former public school teacher. So let me backtrack a little. Instead, this morning, I did what I would have told my children to do. I got curious. I went to your page, looked through a bunch of your videos to kind of get to know who you were and what you were about. You will be the kind of teacher I hope makes change in the public school system. I saw that you were talking about things like a 4-day week for younger students and that the high school schedule works against the natural sleep rhythms of teenagers. And based on that, I bet there's a lot that we would agree on that needs to change within the system. And what's interesting is you reminded me a lot of my 20-year-old daughter. Not to say you seemed young, you're clearly older than her, but she was my Dungeons and Dragon player. She's my artist. She's into cosplay. Just seems like some similarities, possibly. She's also my child who decided to try public high school and lasted there 6 days, her freshman year. So a quick story is she also has OCD, ADHD, some processing issues, and we had a full battery of testing done twice in her life, academically and psychologically, to make sure we were best meeting her needs. She decided to enter high school really for social reasons. She didn't connect with a lot of the homeschool groups we were in. She was feeling lonely. These were valid concerns. We decided to put her in the school system, and I went to the guidance office with all the testing we had done by reputable educational sources, and they were basically like, let's see how she does. Talked through my concerns, and it was like, yeah, let's see if she fails, and then we'll put those supports that are recommended by all these professionals in place, or do our own testing. So even though every instinct in me didn't want to let her go, I knew that this was her path and her choice, and she needed to go, so she went. Literally within a few days, my daughter, who I worked so hard to build up her confidence, to help her know that she was just as smart as everyone else, even though she learned differently and needed more processing time, her confidence in herself was crumbling. She was becoming angry, upset. She felt stupid. It was literally awful to watch, and the system would not work with me to give her the supports that she needed. Now, based on some of the comments that have gone on in your video, I'm not saying you said these, other people have said these. I get the feeling maybe you feel the same way. A lot of people feel like homeschoolers need to stay within the system to help make change. You shouldn't just abandon ship and let it go down for other people. But I have to tell you, as a parent, watching your daughter literally crumble before your eyes, her confidence, being angry at people, her emotional health and mental health was just dropping, and we had spent so long trying to build that up. So I pulled her out. I decided, and she agreed, we're going back to homeschool. And what we had to balance was the school seemed to meet the social needs that she was looking for, but it was not meeting her academic, mental health, emotional health needs. We decided those were more important, especially for her. So we brought her home and started brainstorming all the ways we could better meet her social needs, different groups, finding things she could be involved in. And honestly, it was always hard for her. She just didn't fit in. And I don't know what else to say for that, but I will say this. Had she stayed at that public school and felt so stupid, I can tell you, for a kid who already was declaring they were never going to college because they hated everything academic, she probably would have stayed on that path. Because we homeschooled, built her back up. Her junior year, I enrolled her in the community college, and she really didn't want to go. She was like, college is not my goal. And I was like, hey, just take an art class. Take an art class and see how it goes. And she did. And I will never forget going to pick up at the bookstore her supplies for her art class. And it's this drawing pad and all this stuff. And she looked at me and was like, this could be college? And I'm like, yeah. And then the next semester I had her take a graphic design class, and her textbook was Adobe Photoshop. And she was like, okay, I'm in for this I can do. And that's not to say it was easy, but the college worked with us. I submitted all the paperwork for testing, and bam, immediately they had systems in place to put in the support that she needed for extra time, for quiet rooms for testing, all of those things in a way that the public school didn't. So should I have left her there instead of abandoning the system? You and I just may disagree with that answer. But when you are looking at your own child, your precious baby, and they are falling apart and crumbling in a system, and you could do something about it to rescue them, that's what I did. So I hope, even if you disagree with me, you can understand why I would do that. At least in her case. I'm not going to sit here and give the story of all my kids. I'm simply picking her because it seemed like maybe the two of you had shared some things in common when I went over and got to know you more. And I realized not everyone is able to do what I did. Not everyone can financially do it. And there are huge problems that run much deeper that do need to be addressed in our society. I think you and I agree with that as well. So I just wanted to share that and add, since one of the assumptions you made is most parents aren't capable of homeschooling, sure, give them a basic skills test. It's typically a high school diploma, which I was required to turn into homeschool. But I will say this, in Maryland, in the United States, the first homeschooling group I was a part of, I have a bachelor's degree in education, and I felt so intimidated by some of these homeschool women who had their masters and doctorates who were homeschooling their children. So I also think it's an incorrect assumption to say most parents aren't capable of doing it. Homeschooling has issues. I shared my own experience with my daughter, and the reasons we sent her to school were social issues. She wasn't connecting. But to act like homeschool as a system just has a lot of incapable parents, most of them, is just not true. And most of the teacher training, I mean, I went through it 4 years of a bachelor's degree, and then beyond that for a math certification, a lot of it was classroom management, which you really don't need to do as a homeschooler. Anyway, clearly we will disagree on a lot. I apologize for my assumptions and my flippant response. It's not how I usually like to move in the world, and it was a good reminder for me to stop doing that at night and stop the flippant responses. It's why I tend to avoid the negativity on here. Sorry this was really long, but I hope you have a wonderful day and you bring a lot of the light and joy that we need in the system.